all of your gadgets have been disinfected. And I do have hand sanitizer in case anybody needs it. And I come fully prepared. I bring medical masks, the whole nine. So when I wanted to open, I wanted to open. All right, so obviously I'm orange and red. The crazy thing about this is when you take me out, it's going to fluctuate.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're really looking for, I have it set to white hot, black cold. So we're looking for those black and blue areas. And we want to kind of see if they're intelligent moving. In the event that they are intelligent moving, they will generate a white line around it. So that's going to go to you. You're going to hold it horizontal all night long. The red square you see on the screen means that it's recording. I've had people where if they don't hold it out all night and then we're talking and they hold it down, I want a nice video to watch. They start tapping that button by accident. I've had up to 20 to 30 videos I have to splice together, and then half the data is missing because they didn't realize they hit the button.
Okay.
So just kind of keep that in mind. Spirit box.
Sure.
Well, let's start with this guy because we need this one out. You're going to be double-fisted. You know what a neon knife is, correct? Okay. Do you know why it works the way that it does? Because they never explain that on the TV shows.
Okay. He's an engineer, so he probably does.
Okay, so 3 electromagnetic fields that it's going to measure.
Right.
Yeah.
First one's natural earth. That's why it's green.
Yep.
The next one's going to be electronic items or man-made objects, as I call them.
Mm-hmm.
So wiring. Underneath our streets, we have the parking meters, those kind of things. It's going to give it a pulse. We don't want that pulse either. We want erraticism. It shows that it doesn't record anything, so you kind of have to keep an eye on it. I am going to give you a spirit box. It's going to record everything.
Okay.
So this one's a little different than the one you see on the TV shows. It does the exact same thing, only this one, we don't have an attached speaker because it has a nice volume control.
So you don't have to hear.
Yeah. So, again, what's nice about it, even when it's on mute, it still records at a nice even level. So, like, let's say it was on right now, it would still be recording that all the way through.
Yeah.
I do have it set to a certain speed, so in the event you turn it up and you hear a radio DJ, you hear a song lyric, you do hear a commercial, or a disembodied voice. Those are 4 types. You guys are amateurs, you've never probably done this before. That's why I have it set a little bit slower, and a lot of times those words mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to set it up to sweep and record. So the SD on there means that it's recording. All you need to know is the little turnstile wheel up here, so when I'm not talking, I may even set you guys like in certain areas I may separate from you so that I can use the things on me, so that way we're not interfering with one another. I'm going to try a new gadget that I just got. I don't know how relative it's going to be. It's actually just a plain old battery tester. And the goal behind this is to see if Spirit World will actually drain batteries from it. So I'm going to set it up with 1 battery. I'm not super enthused with this gadget. This is the first time I'm ever using it. I'm just going to keep it in my pocket because the battery does not hold in place. I'm actually going to rubber band it in place because it is ridiculous. I tried to call Ghost Stop down in Clearwater and they were like, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with it. We're going to charge you a 20% restocking fee. Not to mention they charge me 4 times the normal amount that it should be. It's normally a $5 item and they charge me $20. I was pretty upset with that once my wife's like, that seems really high for just what it does. And I was like, you know what, let me start Amazoning this and see what I capture. And it was about $4 on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I paid $20 plus $8 shipping. I was pretty pissed off.
It's Clearwater.
Well, it's Ghost Stop, so I kind of took it as it was one of their gadgets because the red spirit box that you're holding is magnificent. It's one of my favorite tools that I have. And a lot of times when I'm investigating in a museum, I'll just turn it on, slide it in my pocket, and then I listen to it later.
Yeah.
So if you guys listen to my podcast, you'll hear some of that. So I do want to shed some light on this just so you guys can see that it is full and take a picture. Sorry, I was Googling puzzles. My entire house is covered. Like, all of the artwork in my house is puzzles. I'm obsessed. My wife creates them for me. Obviously, she's in graphic design. So my office is decorated in Edgar Allan Poe, stuff that she designed, Stephen King.
Yeah.
And her office is all done in Disney. So I found a Mickey Ravensburger puzzle, and I'm like, oh, damn it, I gotta message that girl. Merry Christmas to the wife. So I wanted a picture of this real quick.
Are you going to put it together for her?
Yeah. So my wife has CMT. Things that her hands shake quite a bit. A 1,000-piece puzzle will take her a year to do.
Yeah.
I do get her other things, like she has a calligraphy set to try to keep her hands balanced and those kind of things. She does use braces to walk. it's amazing to me that she does what she does digitally for me for the tours. Because if we capture something with a digital camera that I hand to another guest, then she analyzes it for us and tells me what the heck happened. Alright, so this is a flash. No. Let's get a flash so I can actually see it. Sorry. This is new for me. I want to try it out. It's still not flashing. What the hell? I know. Taking pictures of batteries is not very fun for you guys. There you go. Nice and bright. Alright. So, it's obviously on green. It's pretty blurry. So, I'm expecting it because this will use up some of the battery life to go at least into the yellow. And we'll kind of see where we're at by the end of the tour. Again, me testing this is just kind of a new anomaly here. So that goes in the pocket. We'll look at it later. A couple things on my phone that we're going to use. It just kind of heightens up the tour for you guys. I do have an EMF in case your battery drains there, which has happened, which is why the reason why I bought the battery tester. I do use two different kinds of spirit boxes on my phone. The first one gives us actually words in the center of the screen, and then it saves it to a full word list.
Okay.
So the last tour actually had 83 terms, which is an excessive amount. I normally get about 50 to 60. So we're going to clear them out because they already have theirs. 80% of this is absolute bullshit. Doesn't mean anything. It's the other 20% that's relatable to us, somebody that's trying to come through to you specifically, what's relatable to the location, or what's happening to me, or just giving us direction. It happens all the time. So I keep that one open all night long, and then I use a reverse spirit box. So a lot of times I'll say, hey, let's turn yours down since we're not getting much activity and try mine. So what's a reverse spirit box? It turns the radio signals backwards. Even if it's not true FM station live, it is still a very relative tool because when something comes forward and it's an answer to one of my questions, and that's not yes or no, it makes complete sense.
Right.
So this is what you guys will hear on your audio. Again, complete gibberish.
Yeah.
So when I do use it and I'm asking questions and I say, hey, what color is my shirt? And it says gray, plain as day, we know that we were actually meant to hear that. Plus it was an intelligent response. So, I'm trying to think, what else do we need to record? We're not taking any pictures tonight. We got video, audio, blah, blah, blah. Yep, I think we're good. So we started here for a reason.
Okay.
So this particular place used to be called Big John's. How long have you guys lived here?
7 years.
7.
Okay, so this was back in the 70s,
Okay.
moving into the 80s. So Big John's was actually named after a football player, John Kennedy, for the New York Giants. It was a 1947 draft. I had to memorize that because I'm not a sports guy. Obviously, I'm a book nerd, so I did memorize it just for this specific story. But he used to sit in the back of the bar, and his Citadel's relatively nearby, and they would come down here for a drink, and Big John would let the bartender know if they were of age or not. If they weren't, the bartender cut them off. One night he did that, pissed off 2 guys, they leave, they come back the next night, and see the cash register from the front of the bar. Big John pulls out his .45, takes a shot, and kills one. The ricochet from the bullet is still in the hole, still in the wall, and the previous owner of Kane Rum Bar, he just moved down to Florida. Ironic that you guys just moved here. Not just, but that's where you're from. And he just covered it up with a panel just because he knew that there was some paranormal activity with it. He talked to John constantly. It said that sometimes when people sit in front of the bar, they'll get a little dizzy, queasy, not feeling well, those kind of things.
Right.
And ironically enough, it's the only place I've ever gotten the EMF 2 occasions on the numerous times that I've been in that bar waiting for my guests. So it's random. It's not from anything man-made. I've tested it several times. I got the word eerie already. So again, I'll try to relate something, but at the end of the day, 80% of it is BS. So I bring this up because I don't know how paranormal activity is going to affect the 2 of you. I've never done this before. I know how it's going to affect me. If I say we need to go, we need to go. I'll be honest, 4 times it's actually happened since I've been doing this tour. One of them was last week, where I was like, we gotta go, like right now. I don't say that shit to scare you guys. It's because this is not meant to be a scary tour. It's more about the devices. But again, if somebody's not feeling well, I need to know and speak up for the other person. I've had people not make it. I've had witches say, no, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like they're done. Like just too much. I've had people pass out. Obviously, you're in healthcare. I don't have to worry about using my CPR training. But I think we're good. But I do need to know for sure. The other story here is, we've had an earthquake here in 1886. Mm-hmm. This was where the first death occurred. So a piece of the mantling shook off the front of the building, struck somebody in the head, and his ghost is said to be seen right here on East Bay. Do I have any proof of that? I do not. However, I have Paul from Cane Run Bar who did tell me that while he was here, because he used to come out and tell me stories about Big John and how he talks to him, he rattles the bottles for him to answer those kind of things.
Cool.
So, you guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Sure.
Sure.
I can see the laughter in your eyes. It's amazing. All right, let's go this way. If I walk too fast, you could just kick me when you catch up. So you're walking too fast.
I won't throw any of the tools at you.
So, the Crew Cafe, I've heard it has great food, but it is haunted. The story that they have there is that there was a suicide that occurred there, and they've asked me to come do a full investigation. I did walk through with the EMF. I did get some activity upstairs in the restroom, but I could probably debunk it by how old the building is, but I don't know because there's no record of when that particular building was actually erected, and they say that that was a slave home. So according to the maps that I have, there's no address. So I don't know if that's an expansion. You've got activity already, which is good. But again, I have to do a full investigation before I can actually claim it haunted. I just like to show it off because it's kind of hidden. Not many people even know it's there. History buffs? Yes?
Yep.
No?
Perfect.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, Charleston's Peninsula used to be much skinnier. All the stuff on the outskirts was man-made junk. So, Revolutionary War, ship would have been probably maybe not even a block away. Shot a cannon, it landed right there at the stop sign. So, to kind of verify that, Mark Jones is another local author. That's where I actually got that tidbit. I'm like, hey, that's all I told her. I'm going to show it off.
Yeah.
So, no deaths, no tragedies, no paranormal activity that I can catch. I've been up there several times trying to just see if there's anything, just artifacts to show the cannonball. So, where are you standing now? This is the Red Barn lot. You guys should know that this is where they keep the ponies for the carriage rides, right? The horses are still in there. In my bag, I usually hand out lasers, so that way we can see things that we can't normally see. And I have to warn that we don't put lasers in the barn. You will spook the horses and scare the shit out of everybody. Sorry about my language, it's a little too harsh. Okay, I figure we're all adults.
And if the barn cat is in there, and shoot the lasers, the barn cat will go insane.
In the what?
The barn cat will go insane with the lasers.
Oh, yeah, the barn cat. Sorry, in here. Stupid masks, I hate them.
I'm quiet anyway. You got a cable
What's on
buried
your
under
mask?
here?
I've been looking at
Cats.
it. Oh, fair enough.
I know. I grew up on a farm. I know the barn cats. I have a ghost cat.
You have a ghost cat. So the reason why, where is my mask? I have it. Where did it go? Mine looks very similar. It's almost the same pattern as what you have. Oh my god, I don't even have it on me. I might have to take it real quick. What you guys will
You're
see.
fine. We won't tell. We're outside.
If I'm actually hot without it, I can get fined very, very quickly. I got it. So mine, my mother-in-law, I started her own little website.
Oh, that's adorable. Yeah, my son and sister would love that.
I have nothing but ghost skulls and death and pumpkins and all kinds
Your
of shit
wife
for my
needs to get your logo printed on some fabric.
So we looked into that too. It's just, I mean, we got T-shirts and hats and coffee mugs and everything else. I'm like, we're not doing masks. I'm not.
It's just for you.
I like the edition. I think I the key thing. I'm already branded enough with the hat and shirt today. I think I'm overkill. But anyway, so this is also the same barn where they kept the horses that delivered milk. So if that kind of dates it for you, 1860s and 1920s. This is I normally bring my group of 10 up here and say, this is your playground because that's all the history I have. I get a different person to talk to every night. We get activity all over. This is a great place for the thermal imaging because you have different material. We have metals, we have obviously some asphalt, we have bricks over here, wood, more bricks, trees, you have all kinds of things. And then I have thermometers to kind of help debunk anything that you actually question. So different types of thermometers between ambient and infrared, so we can see if it's the actual object or if it's just a wind chill or whatever it might be. It is pretty windy tonight. So again, I'm bringing the whole bag just in case we need to debunk things very, very quickly. So I say let's go. We're going to keep your spirit box just at an audible level so we don't spook the ponies. And let's kind of see what we can capture. We're just going to kind of walk around here for a few minutes, and that way you can start asking me questions. And I'll show you kind of how I go about this spirit box.
You guys have a cable buried in your center?
No, it's actually a sewer line. So you can see the sewer line right where the patchwork is in the asphalt. I get people try to debunk me, like in the wintertime. You gotta imagine, like I'm bundled. I got I got my jacket on. I'm chilly. I'm a small guy, so I get cold fast. And people are like, what's in your jacket? I'll take it off. Here, test it. Go through the sleeves. Go through the pockets. I don't give a damn. There's nothing on me. I'm not clicking buttons in my pocket making an EMF go off. I haven't gotten much else. Go ahead and turn your spirit box up. Just so we can hear it. So spirit box sessions, I usually get people, like if I don't tell them like how to go about asking questions, they just start, hey, somebody here, what's your name? What color's the ground? Like they just start spouting off questions. I ask the same question once every 30 seconds until I get an answer for about 2 minutes. If I don't get an answer, and I want something solid, like I give them the example of what color is the barn or what's inside the barn. So we're going to start with what color is the barn because we know we're looking for the color of the barn. So let's go ahead and turn that a little bit. Obviously, we see typing the box open lights. Let's move it to a different box color. Can you keep them a little bit separate? Yeah, I'm not here at 12:20. Alright, we got a little bit of activity here. We actually have somebody. Tell me what color the barn is. Something there, I think here. Tell me what color the barn is, please. And they can come through any device. They can come through your audio, my audio, my 2 spirit boxes, this one, or they could just start making this thing go to red and say, hey, that's the color. Because that's all they can muster. I'm always going to be pulling this thing out just out of curiosity. Try to find another. Try to get that from the yellow. It's starting to go. Okay. They should tell me what color that barn is. Try one more time. They're not going to just hang out in one spot. That's the thing about what people like, oh, it's right here, it's right here. No, they're going to move around. Yeah. They were once a person. And we can try to use this as communication too if nothing's going to come out of there. Up the box. This one right here. I want you to tell us through the other box what color the barn is. You got the word pig. Revelation. There's their display. Yeah. We're asking a simple question. What color is the barn? Alright, let's move on to another question. Before we move, because it's starting to hit red up here now too. Tell me what's inside the barn. And don't tell me pigs again. You know what else is funny? I find too is people think they'll go like this, and they think the ghost is inside the device. What's inside the barn? And I'm like, it's not inside the box. You don't need to speak into it. They can hear us, even our own conversations between us. There's something there too. Yeah. Well, that's also not recording us. Right. So that's with the timestamps on your thermal and my audio report for me to try to match it up. And I've been doing this long enough now, I know the first 20 minutes and the next 40 minutes or whatever, that, you know, based on how much activity we have. Again, I'm not seeing a pattern to that, but I'm also not getting any answers out of there. So let's turn yours down for just a minute and kind of get a gist of how this one here works. So I also want to keep in mind, use this device now to tell us what kind of animals are in that barn. Let's see if anything comes up. So we can see thermodynamics in reverse as well. So if you know anything about thermodynamics, it actually works. You can't create heat or temperature. It goes into a balance, kind of like the scales. So if you see something getting warmer, in a very short amount of time,
Right.
that means something else cold is creating. I'll take the thermodynamics and reverse as evidence as well. So I've had that, I think 2 or 3 times now since I got that camera. All right, loud and proud because it's a little noisy over here. Tell me what's inside the barn. I know you're here just hanging out. Yes. I try to stay away from what's in the park. Can you give me a name? Give me your name. Or something there.
Are they German?
Here? I don't know. The only, as far back as the history that I have, that is all I told you because I can't find anything else.
You said Deutsch.
Which was what?
German.
For what?
German.
Oh, German for German.
Yeah.
Got weird. Alright, so you guys kind of have a gist of how everything works now. Alright, let's go learn some history. How about that? I'm not getting unless it's super active, I'm not going to hang out. There's too many other spots to see. How you doing, man?
What's going on?
Fraulein and Deutsch. The German language station you need to be listening to.
Alright. It's not going to be parking lots all night long. I promise. Those are boring.
Parking lots are where the good things used to happen.
So, this used to be Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion. Would have been set up right there in the front. You're already going red, which is amazing. Thank you, Eliza and or Charles. So their home would have been in the front. The garden would have been lined up back here with the blue dumpster, and then the slave quarters would have been where those cars were parked. So what's so important here? Do you guys know the story of the Pinckneys?
A little bit.
Okay,
No.
so, you know, they had a son named Charles and they had a nephew named Charles, and those were signers of our Constitution. And so then, I can't remember if the father was the governor or if he was the mayor. I want to say he was governor of South Carolina for a short period of time. I don't get into politics, so I always have to remember the hierarchy of things. But anyway, Eliza is really the one that usually comes through here. So what happened with Eliza was she married Charles so she could stay here in the United States. She's originally from England. Her dad was sick, thought he was dying, wanted all his kids home. She didn't want to go, so she got married and became a citizen. He got better, obviously. He starts sending her gifts. I told you her garden was lined up here. One of those gifts happened to be indigo. So your indigo plants that you see all over town actually started right here. They eventually moved it over to their farm inland, which is in Mount Pleasant. And you can actually visit the Charles Pinckney Historical Foundation over there. I want to say that that's Snee Farm, if I'm not mistaken. But we do get a lot of words that wrap around the indigo plant and the things that she did. So, the word dug. It's interesting. I always get words that are wrapped around, like a garden, soil, flowers, plants. I usually get those kind of very common terms when I'm here. So, she was also the businesswoman that sold it overseas. You guys know what indigo is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When I have kids, I normally got to explain it. I also have to explain what a digital camera is to them too. Say this is a point and shoot camera, has 2 buttons on and off. Snap the picture. It's not a cell phone. So, but I always explain what indigo is, especially because there's an episode on Disney Plus of Jeff Goldblum that actually did a whole thing on denim.
Yeah.
And he goes into the shop and he dips his arm into the indigo and he turns blue.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But anyway, so she was the businesswoman that sold it overseas. She used some of her dad's contacts, but this, we're talking colonial times, so there was no business women.
Right.
It was, you know, a huge deal. A couple things we're going to ask as you kind of go through here. I'm going to separate from you guys for a little while, just so I can do my own thing with this. But she was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, so you can ask what her maiden name was, because that's what she goes by, Eliza Blank Pinkney. She had 4 kids. You already know one was Charles, but only one of those 4 kids was a daughter. So try to find out what her name is. You can find out how she died, where she died, how, when, where, and how old she was. So, sorry, there's a bunch of series of questions. So these are just examples that you can kind of go through as you guys are exploring. Obviously, nice slow movements from there because the camera technology is not there. It's a thermal imaging camera. It will pixelate if you move too quick. You can also ask what happened to the house. So that's a big question too, and that's a nice easy answer. So I'm going to use my spirit box session and kind of separate. I'm going to see where you guys go first and go in the opposite corner. And again, kind of see what happens. Oh, our light is blinking tonight. Awesome. So that light isn't always blinking. So if you actually hold your EMF up, like you're going to take a selfie, it's usually in sync with your EMF.
Okay.
Just from the amount of energy. And it is not always blinking. Sometimes it's all the way on, sometimes it's all the way off, and then it blinks in different types of intervals. And I've tested it multiple times with cameras. It's usually within 2 frames. So, I mean, it's that accurate that the activity here is actual paranormal activity. I actually had a grand finale this weekend. But this place is a huge, huge deal. So we're going to spend about 10 minutes here unless one of you starts feeling dizzy from too much activity. And we'll kind of take it from there. But this is a happy place. Feel free to just do not ask about the sons. One of them passed away very early. Once that happens, you're going to see all activity stop, including the EMF. Like she does not. So I gave you some good sample questions. So let's explore.
Okay.
Any questions so far? You said you're going to ask me a ton of questions.
Not yet.
Am I that thorough?
Yes.
Okay. Rock on. I'll take it. All right. I'm going to.
It's all of it.
Yeah. Something there for sure. I got Dutch is the word on my. That's interesting.
And German is Deutsche. Or
Deutsch.
we say Dutch.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. There's no Germany in German. German. It's Deutschland.
Yes, Deutschland.
The word yell too. So see what you guys capture on there. Let me watch to see where you guys are going to spread off to, and I'll go in the opposite direction.
Is this Eliza?
I just got yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Right away. So
Is your daughter with you? Did she help you in the garden? Did you work with the indigo yourself for growing? What's your maiden name? Did you ever go home to England? Can I come back and see you again? bring you some indigo?
What happened to the house?
What happened to the house? I didn't hear your maiden name. Could you tell me again? What was your daughter's name? Is your daughter with you?
Hearing anything yet or not?
Yeah, not very clear though.
You get this.
I sort of your name wasn't.
So, I kind of, I'm a little bit lost on how this would have worked back then, but she had put a patent of some sort on her indigo crop.
Maybe not a crop. It would have been like a patent out. She would have had to invent something to harvest it or store it.
Yeah, because I got the word patent, but I also got the word lesions when I went up to where the house caught fire. So I'll tell you that. And I usually go up there, I wait to see if somebody's drawn to that first. If nobody goes there, that's where I go, because that's where I get the most activity. And then I got the word like sometime, and then I was like, all right, let me kind of change this up. Let's talk about your garden. I was like, tell me what's in your garden. And I immediately got seeds, like audibly. So I was like, okay, that's a great word. And and you're gonna have to verify this because I don't always listen to the audio, but I heard baked beans breakfast.
I asked her if she ever went back to England.
Okay.
They eat baked beans for breakfast.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have to probably take that clip out and
And when she
fill it up.
said sometimes asked if her daughter was with her.
Okay. A lot of times, like I'll be honest, the word tea as well. That would have been an English
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Talking about breakfast.
Oh yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, I had the word October come up twice. And I'm like clueless. Like, how would that come up twice? When something comes up twice, like I know I'm meant to look into it. So when I looked into it, Charles was born in October and died in October. So I obviously had Charles here with me that night.
Yeah.
I got the word leg. The word lesions kind of matches up with that somehow. I don't know how. I don't think anybody was in the house when it caught fire, but it was upstairs on that corner. So sometimes I'll get the word upstairs, and then I did get the word like remind, like stop reminding me, like you keep coming here every damn night asking me about my fire. So that's when I changed it up to the garden.
Yeah.
But I am pretty pleased with baked beans breakfast and
Yeah.
seeds when I ask a direct answer. And those are both audible pieces. They're not words from the digital spirit box. They're from the reverse. I was like, okay, baked beans breakfast, you'll hear me chuckle. Like, that's weird. And I bring that because what's funny is when I started ghost hunting, I was only working with a psychic. I had no gizmos and gadgets. And one of the places that we investigated, he wrote down in automatic rating, fish is okay for breakfast. Like literally. And I was like, okay, what the hell does that mean? We were at an old house where somebody used to take in boarders, and most of those boarders were sailors. So she cooked whatever they had,
Right.
which means fish was okay for breakfast. So that just kind of reminded me of that case from a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me kind of look into this. All right, so if you guys are, like, I'm really pleased with that
Yeah.
amount of activity. So I actually want to move us on so we can actually catch some more places.
And her Dutch neighbor's still yelling at her.
What's funny is I got neighboring and the word calm, like the neighbor needs to be calm
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of thing. So maybe that's a tie-in too. You can take that for what it's worth. I probably won't notate it. But we're gonna walk up East Bay Street and go to Lodge Alley. Do you guys know where that is? You guys won't be at Lodge. You're gonna be following me anyway. Small group. Like, I almost want to go back and listen to that audio right now, but I don't want to stop here. Like, I'm really happy with that. Back on East Bay. We've got about 3 blocks away from here.
First thing, no!
Big John's ever goes up for sale, I'll be the first one to be calling the banks. What do I need to do? So you're on East Bay. All of the parking meter lines are underneath, so it's going to cause enough EMF to come up. So don't get excited on East Bay. We can take a hike. I love Friday nights downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry if you're a picture taker and I gave you too many gadgets to hold, because there's some really great
Yeah.
sights that, at night that you don't get to see it, and that, you know what I mean? It's a whole different light.
Yeah.
And what's funny is most people say, when they're taking the tour, I want to go as late as possible so it's dark, because it's 7 o'clock.
Never dark.
It's never gonna be dark.
What's that?
It's never gonna be dark. Yeah.
So, to me, I don't care. Ghosts don't care what time of day it is.
There's some like basic mechanical knowledge required.
My whole talking. I'm talking right now.
So I just got back from Gettysburg. Yeah. I did quite a few investigations while I was in the PA. I just launched the Jenny Wade House episode today at Gettysburg. I did late night in the morning, 11. I got quite a bit out of that. That was an interesting thing. I wanted to get that one because 9/11 landed on a Friday this year. And that's the day I launched my episodes.
Yeah.
So it was perfect timing. I went in August.
Fucking find a bomb.
See that site?
Yeah. Okay, they close over.
Now that you wear glasses, I was going to ask for a tip. getting it to not fog.
Smart ass. Toothpaste?
Yeah. Washing the toothpaste on. Oh yeah. So you can spit on them, not actually. It's cool.
Mother-in-law puts those wire brushes. That's what's in the tip. So you can shape it to your nose.
Yeah.
It's a great place. But if I don't put the glasses just on the outside of it, fog up everything. It's the worst one if I'm driving Uber for the day because it's on and off, on and off, on and off all day. You guys ever been down here?
No.
Not down the alley.
It has an issue.
This is the blue-green property.
Right. Yep. Exactly. What's funny is I got the word retreat on the way here.
Yeah.
So I usually kind of stop in this area. And what's funny is almost every night during my 9 p.m. tour, the security guard comes by and starts locking things up, and I have the word policeman. So it's kind of like they already know I'm coming. Which is interesting. I have my shadow figures down in here with thermal imaging and verified with digital photos. This is where the Masons used to be. I also get, this was also a regular street, so these buildings weren't here.
Right.
So obviously, small homes. I have a full list of residents of everybody that's ever lived on this block. So any event a name comes up, one specific likes to come up. His name is Benjamin. He lived here in 1800. I have had Benjamin and John come up in relatively short amount of time of each other. They both lived here in 1800. So that's all they give me. But again, really cool place. These bricks are obviously made out of clay. They're original. So we actually captured everything along the way. Those are the types of things I'm looking for. The shadows that I caught were around the half wall, where I actually had a quarter temperature, like a figure of a person, and then a very odd shadow. And they're verified at the same time. Excuse us. But yeah, obviously the EMF doesn't give us a lot unless you're down at the front, which is Magnolia's giving off with our lights, pitching, and all that mess.
Yeah.
So if I do get an EMF spike in here, it's notable because it doesn't happen. So it's happened on occasion. I don't know that I had anything similar to those shadow figures. But this is a really cool alley. Not many people even know it's here. And what's nice is there's another alley, and if you're a picture taker at the end, you can get a nice shot of the St. Philip steeple from back here. Really nice. That. I used to tell like one of my psychic stories here.
Yeah.
Until I started learning more and more about it and started diving in. Now I got to do a podcast episode on the place because I got that much activity here.
Oh, that's pretty. Steeple.
Yeah.
Really pretty down there.
Bet you didn't wear heels.
Do I ever wear heels if I'm gonna like walk more than 10 feet? 6 feet tall.
You're still in the green.
Yep.
Might not be a Whereabouts in North Charleston you got that?
Northwood Estates, off of Green Ridge.
Okay.
The older spot.
Yeah, cool. There's some really nice areas in North Charleston, like the Manhattan area.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised. Most people think North Charleston is out Rivers Avenue.
Wait, everybody's like, oh, you live in North Charleston? I'm like, I don't live in the nut. I live in the suburbs.
Exactly. So we're about to go through Philadelphia Alley, but I tell the story out here. is one of the hot spots for all of the ghost tours. They all take their folks here. This is their big grand finale. I'm going to give you the gist of this place in about 4 minutes because we're using gadgets that can prove the story true or not.
Okay.
Very exciting. And the word damned. That's never good. All right, so, right? So the story is very simple. Oh, is that your garage ticket?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't lose that. So the story is very, very simple. Doctor moved down here from Rhode Island. His name was Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. He was supposed to get married to his fiancee Amanda, who just inherited a bunch of money from her deceased parents. And the lawyer handling the money said, no, you guys aren't getting married. iPhone?
No.
Oh. Oh, the EMF's going off because of your phone. That's why I was like,
Oh.
where is that flashing coming from? If you want to stand over here to get that picture, you can. I'll get up here. So, the doctor moves down here to Charleston. Yeah, that's a gorgeous picture. And the coachman that brings him into town sets him up to be robbed and killed. Sends him to a bad part of town, which I want to say is towards the Radcliffeboro Mansion area, which is kind of where we started. Somebody walking by says, you don't want to stay here, let me take you somewhere else. That guy's name was Ralph Isaacs. So again, with the RI, we have Rhode Island, where the doctor came from, and we have RI. I bring that up because I get that quite a bit here on my digital spirit box. But anyway, so he takes me somewhere else, which is 59 Church Street, where he rents a room upstairs from 2 young ladies, and he's good to go. He starts his practice, things are going well, he's making a lot of money. He becomes known as the Whistling Doctor. If you Google that, you'll get a much longer version of this story with a lot more details. I'm giving you just enough so we know what we're doing. The two became friends, but as the doctor moved up in the hierarchy of Charleston, they sat in different seats in the things that they used to go see, like plays. So one night they're talking about Richard III on the way home. They can't sit next to each other as they're watching the play. The doctor loved the new actress. Ralph did not. It turns into an insult party on the doctor's fiance back home. They get pissed at each other. They go their separate ways. Ralph, being an attorney here in town, attorneys back then weren't what we think of attorneys as now. He just has a lot of ties in the city, so he puts a big ad in the paper of what a disgrace the doctor is to the city of Charleston. He's not from here, he takes all our money, blah, 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 blah. So the doctor rebuttals with, we're going to settle this in Dueler's Alley. That's what this was called before Philadelphia Alley. So they had to rename it after dueling became illegal and stupid, and Philadelphia actually helped us out of one of our many, many fires. So they come down here, they take their back-to-back, take 20 paces, they turn, the doctor puts his gun in the air, he shoots. He didn't want to kill his friend. He just wanted to forgive him and move on. However, Ralph Isaacs takes 2 shots below the knees. The doctor drops. He's not dead. Normally the loser of a duel is dead. And he goes through the hole in the wall over here to go through the courtyard of St. Philip's and over to the cemetery. They drop some dirt on him. They go celebrate with a pint. It's kind of how the duels went. That didn't happen though. So his friends pick him up and they carry him 1.5 miles to his home at 59 Church Street, where there's also activity. And he dies 10 days later. Now, they say as you walk through here, you can hear the whistles. They also say you can hear the gunshots. So that's why we record everything. So if you're going to be listening to this in the car, turn this part up. And that way you can listen for the whistles. 2 times I've been able to find whistles that I could not debunk. Doesn't mean that they're true or not, because I have other whistles, because you're going to hear people around town love to mess with us, people that love to go ghost walking. And they're going to play with us. And 4th of July is not a good time to take the story either for the gunshots.
Yeah.
So, a couple little tidbits. I already told you about the gate. Nobody ever talks about why that hole in the wall is there, because that was the loser of the duel. That's where he went. But the bricks actually get older as we move along. These back here were repaired and replaced in the 1990s, but those down there, they were sun-dried by slave kids that had to literally turn the bricks every hour so that they would sun-dry. We still have their fingerprints. We have 1 full handprint down there. So if you're ever at Magnolia Plantation, there are some in there as well. If you actually Google handprints Charleston, it'll tell you exactly where. So it's a Post and Courier story. It's actually pretty unique. But let's see what kind of time we have. You guys want to go check out a few extra spots?
Sure.
We got plenty of time. We're only an hour in. Let's go do this. We're actually going to go down here and go right, and we'll come back and walk through, since you already know the story. Watch this stuff. This is like the most peaceful, beautiful place in all of Charleston. I love the sound. There's the gate that everybody goes when you get all through everything. Here, just as we're walking. People live here in that yellow building where the arcade is. The front of this building, the brick part, used to be Bocce's restaurant. Bocce's is now owned, I think, by Tommy Condon's. They use it as storage because Bocce's was too haunted there.
Yeah.
Already starting to feel that extra heavy breath come through. But things move around in there, the doors don't stay locked. You know,
Yeah.
there's apartments upstairs. If I did have another place to look at for my retail store, that would be it. Not to mention it's right next to the market.
Yeah.
So, this place, we've gotten weird pictures of the windows up there.
Yeah.
Those shadows up there. I've had people come out of this apartment behind me screaming at me about filming. Like, come on, guys. Seriously. But, how much do you guys know about the Powder magazine? Nothing?
No, went on school field trip with son, blah, blah, blah. Trust kids, he said.
There are haunting claims at the Powder magazine. I have none. I've been there dozens of times. I have a season pass. It's beautiful. There's nothing there. But I do like to talk about it just because on record it is the oldest building we have in Charleston. On record. I will argue that the pink house that is haunted is 1 year old. 1712 on the pink house. We still have a record of it. The Powder magazine is 1713. The roof of that place is filled with sand from the early 1700s to keep the blast out. It is a groin vaulted ceiling building, which means it has 8 pillars on the outside, all 32 inches thick, and they all meet into the middle of it. Like there's another 32-inch thick pillar in the center, so it's groin vaulted. So in case it was attacked, and it did serve in 8 different wars. So in and out. It wasn't full. This was kind of like the hiding place. It was kind of like, all right, move all the gunpowder to Charleston, and then let's get it out of there because they know it's here. So it was never attacked. But again, it was just inside the Charlestown walls and far enough away from the water where it can't be hit by a cannon. So the cannons will probably go about as far as this street right here. So they knew the measurements to go just past. So again, just like the cannon I told you about back where we started, same kind of principle.
Yeah.
Very popular area up in that area, so I'll kind of give you the gist of what they're looking at now. There's 3 different stories that go with St. Philip's, and then if you're a history buff, Calhoun is buried on the other side because only citizens can be buried on this side. The story, well, I guess I should lay out the land here first. So just beyond that cemetery, that side on the other, across the street is the Pirate House. So it actually it butts right against the cemetery. That's where Blackbeard's men will come in, have a drink, a few women, go catch a play over at Doctrine Theater through the tunnel that was underneath the ground from the Pirate House, 1 block away to Doctrine Theater. So, again, rumor, spectacle kind of thing, but Blackbeard never set foot on our soils. So there was rumor that he buried his treasure here, but we all know it's North Carolina. So the story goes, there's ghosts over at Dock Street Theater, top 10 haunted locations in America. It's a haunted spot. I have a little bit of activity when I've been through there, but I think it's haunted by something else. But the stories go, because it was Dock Street Theater first, because this used to be Dock Street, right? And then they turned it into Planters Hotel. You guys know this story already with Nettie? The girl with the no knees, and because she's walking on the original floor. Okay, I'll skip that one. All right, so Junius Booth also haunts the place. Father of John Wilkes Booth, who shot Lincoln in here. He's not from here. He didn't die here. He just loved the place so much. I don't buy that one either. So, I think that the place is actually haunted from some of the wood that was taken from the Radcliffe Borough Mansion that burned down in the 1700s. When they reconstructed Dock Street Theater, we always save whatever we can here in Charleston, so they just transferred the wood. So that was a pretty big fire that happened up there.
Yeah.
And I believe, and that wood is actually, if you're on the balcony or the second floor, it's 12 feet in the air, lining like a chair rail.
Right.
I can't get the EMF close to it, but as high as I can reach is when I start getting a little bit of activity. It's also on the doors to take you into the main part. They won't let me in there. I tried several times. They just won't do it. Do you guys know the story about the sign here at St. Philip's? Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know, because that's a long story with Nettie Texas. So, excuse us, guys.
Sorry.
You're good. So, there's a sign that says there's no ghost at St. Philip's but the Holy Ghost. Right. Okay, so the whole point of that was in 1888 we had a young lady that died 10 days after her stillborn child. In 1988 we had a photographer in town that caught the full apparition with a baby basket next to her over that grave. And then all of a sudden all of us ghost hunters start wanting to do the same thing. Back in 1988 we didn't have cell phones and Photoshop and all that mess to make things up, excuse me. So he sends it off to Kodak. They can't debunk it. I don't show the picture because it's cursed, so that any woman that holds it starts to feel a little dizzy, queasy, all those nasty paranormal things. But any pregnant woman that has it will not have a good pregnancy, so don't show it. I'm done with my kids too. Like, they're older, I'm good. My youngest is 14 and she's going on 25. And my oldest is 20 going on 30. But we won't go there. There's way too many wins. Interesting. But that's the story there. And when I have my lasers out with all these folks, like that's a great place to tell all the stories, and they can play with the lasers in the cemetery, and see what's going on up there. I did have a young lady one night taking pictures in that area with an iPhone. She had a flash on, so she's getting all these weird orbs. Of course, I debunked it right away. I'm like, first off, you're using an iPhone. That camera is meant to pick up every particle of dust. So she's like, well, it's on the video too. I'm like, it's wind and tide. Like, I was able to debunk it pretty quickly. My wife, what she does for money, is she actually is the cell phone mobile manager at Best Buy in Somerville. If you guys need new cell phones, go see her. She'll hook you up. But she knows every damn camera. So she's taught me a lot about it. Like, when somebody says, I got a picture, I'm like, okay, great. Can you send it to me? But you also tell me what kind of phone it was taken. Because that way when my wife looks at it, she says, oh, a Samsung 8? I know what to do with this. I know what that is. Or she can say, I don't know what it is. So, there's all kinds of fun stuff that I can do with folks if they're happy with that. She knows everything about the stories. So, that's perfectly fine with me, because Bulldog likes to take my spot anyway. We're actually going to go back where we came from and walk all the way down Philly, and that way we can listen for the whistles. You can feel free to listen to the spirit box along the way. They will come through there too. And I'll show off the handprints. Handprint is right outside of the gentleman's home, so we'll kind of move through it.
Bill Murray. Y'all know Bill Murray? Ghostbuster man for a small fee. He'll come out to Ghostbusters here and just run that lane. Alright? By hand over the door with you.
Thought it was going to be, what you were hoping it was going to be. Believe it or not, I get a lot of people that, because it's a Groupon and they talk, yeah. Well, they had no idea what they were getting.
Right.
Like when I start handing out stuff, I'm like, I'm putting you to work. Like, you're collecting my stuff for my dissertation. Like, let's go.
Chop, chop. There's work to do.
I don't want to pay any more tuition.
It's a monitor. It's about 5 years old. It's what happened to one of my coworkers. So I was asking about one of the weirdest stories. Now, one thing I learned about getting into school is that
Well, see the boredom out of that group.
Our feet hurt. My friend and I are in Asheville,
That's a great picture too. 'Cause you
Yeah.
got the steeple in the back.
Oh, yeah.
and we went on our tour. It ended up being 45 minutes of the story about this mafia shootout, and really gory. And I was like, and they're like, and sometimes you can see a guy up there and he's standing on the old floor.
Really? That's what he gave you?
I was like, was he involved in the shootout? No.
That's named Randy, but I can't seem to find a reference in my stories in my head that I know.
A Randall's.
Start to see some of the fingerprints.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
I actually had a whole group the other night. It was all black, and they were amazed that I was telling stories about cotton and slaves, and I'm like, part of our history.
All right. So even though he's got Swedish ancestors, they really don't get much more southern than his family. They have a family cemetery. Goes back pre-Civil War. Well, a quarter of it is monumented off with a marker that says slaves not owned and died.
Oh,
So the fact that these kids are living on in the work, I love.
and I tell people that you want to be a slave kid and go hang out where you were a slave?
No, we're gonna go on.
And then I get the question, when are we going to go to a cemetery? You're walking through it?
That is like such a cool idea to have your
One more building. So this is the Wagner building. The Wagner building used to be around the corner. So it normally gives me a word like gallery or something for an art gallery. The corner out. But anyway, the Wagner building was part of our cotton industry. The last guy who had it as a cotton warehouse, his name was George Poirier. You guys know this story? All right. I figured this one's a little more obscure. It's being like the back of this is condos now, and they're turning the front into a wedding reception venue. So it's going to be 3 floors plus a rooftop. Will be considered waterfront. 50 grand gets you in the door, I'm sure. But anyway, so it was just in the attic. It's in a like.
Yeah.
But anyway, so George inherited the business from his dad. Clueless, silver spoon kid, no idea what he was doing, and he gets himself into a bunch of debt and blows through his inheritance pretty quickly. He needs to get out. He also had the boll weevil in town, which the bug that he's cotton.
Yeah.
So he's really screwed. He needs to get out. So instead of spreading his cotton throughout America, what's here, he decides he's going to sell it to the British. Don't give him enough to pay off all of his debts, so he takes it anyway. So again, he's watching from the 2nd story floor. Your online stories will say 3rd floor. My data says 2nd floor. And he's watching the ship roll in. They unload a horse and buggy from these back garages. He watches the whole thing. Somebody gets too close to the cotton with a pipe. The whole ship goes in flames. Everybody jumps off and dies. He watches the whole thing. So he's already depressed because he's in debt. His dad's gone, and now his father's legacy is gone. So what's he do? He piles up all the furniture, puts a captain chair on the top, and this thing a lot of times will remind me, you got to put that chair. It'll say the word chair, which is like, all right, dude, I get it. But he swings a noose. The news kid the next morning is the one that found it. Apparently there was a broken window. That's part of the legend. But the legitimacy of it is the dude hung himself, and they say you can see the shadow of his swinging corpse. Now, thermal imaging can't see through glass. Right? We know that, right? So in the event one of your blue panels starts to get a little darker or black, then we have some activity behind it. I've caught that a couple of times, a handful, enough for me to say, okay, that's legit. The other weird thing about this building is, see the peak at the very top, kind of like where that attic window was?
Yep.
In the front is the same thing, but it's covered in stone. And then just below that, about 5 feet, is the same type of stone embedded into the brick. At times, now tonight's going to be a little bit weird because it's really windy. I'm sure a lot of that wind's coming in off the water. But at times, there's a 30-degree difference between those two stones. Same type of material, 5 feet apart. 7 to 12 degrees, I can see the top being about 7 to 12 degrees cooler. Anything higher than 15, I get a little like, huh, that's why I got so many words along the way. Now, Coogan's Porch, you guys know that story, right? So you can take this app, and when you guys are out to eat, and just look up to see if the place is haunted. Just open this, put it in the middle of the table, and enjoy your dinner. Look at the list later and see what actually pops up. I had gotten her coming through whenever I'm looking at this building as well. So her name was Zoe Saint Amand. She was French. That comes up all the time. And then if I ask her directly, like, what does your house look like now? She'll tell me words like spoon, fork, plate, food, things that relate to a restaurant. So restaurant is a very hard word to muster to try to come up with. So she'll just kind of give me those clues, even in the word list. So the EMF, once we get up to the front, is obviously going to go off because of parking meters, but we're going to get a nice second story view, and, you know, with your camera nice and slow to see if anything changes, and we can review it again in the morning to see what actually pops up and kind of take it from there. But again, this was same time frame as when Zoe was here, so I'm not surprised that I get both or none. Like, this is a hit or miss kind of location.
Yeah.
So I'm going to turn up my spirit box as I walk in front of you guys, so that way I'm not picking up yours. And by the time we get to the front, I'll cut it off. You guys will hear me ask a few questions and wait for those answers. By all means, listen to yours. We'll get your thermal, and then we'll call it a night. Did I walk you guys too fast?
No.
No?
Okay.
No.
Zoe was an elementary school teacher, so we have Zoe. Again, they both like to automatically fit things on. million gadgets in here now. And it's 71 degrees. 74.3. So there's only a 4-degree difference. 3 degrees. So nothing major out of the stone. Pretty pleased with teacher coming through. That was a big deal. Did you hear anything on your stream?
I want to see this. You guys 5 times a week in gym. We're going to sit down.
How do we do on your videos? It's still a square? Nice. I don't have to splice anything together. So good stuff.